not have wanted Erika to, it would not have been my advice for Erika in a stage of grieving to go from being the widow to being the CEO and the chairman of the company. If I was running the company, I would have said, let's put in place an interim CEO, right? Someone below Justin Strife, I think, was the COO. I would have put in an interim CEO and allowed people to figure things out. Because it is a true statement that there's two things happening here. There's a widow, and then there is the chairman and the CEO. And that person, no matter what, is going to have to catch heat for any decisions the business is making. That's just the reality of the way the world works. When you're a CEO and you're a boss, if a mistake is made, doesn't matter whether you did it, whether you said it, whether you tweeted it, it's going to come down on you. And she has assumed that role, okay? So criticisms pertaining to anything at Turning Point USA that are being directed at Erika are fair. Obviously, they are fair if they are directed about Turning Point USA and their actions. The second thing that I would say, and again, this is unsolicited advice, so she's free to throw it out.
It's like, lady, didn't your husband just get his face blown off like 2 seconds ago? And not to be insensitive about it, but everyone's thinking it. No one wants to be the asshole. No one wants to say it. Everyone's thinking it. Everyone was thinking it when she gave the first speech. Everyone was definitely thinking it at the memorial. Nobody wants to say it because it's inappropriate. It's insensitive. I am the troll, right? So I'll be the one to say it. I think it's super inappropriate. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's weird. It's bizarre. Something is off there, and I don't like it.
And it was Candace Owens who broke the silence. She said what many were whispering. Erica Kirk's response to the death of her husband, Charlie, seemed to be different from what the public expected. Not because anyone wanted to judge others' grief, but because the way she expressed it, calm, even cold, left many people confused. Candace didn't beat around the bush. She went straight to the point that most in the public media avoided. Why did Erika seem so quick to accept, rather than demand clear answers about the incident?
But in the entire issue and the energy right now is that people, irrespective of what's happening on paper, don't believe the story. They don't believe a story. And you are, and of course, this is only a snippet of the interview, so I'm sure more will be said here. But I'm getting that you have seen the case, you think it's a solid case. She thinks it's a solid case at least, and is saying, show everybody what you have so they can see true evil. Within her capacity of chairman and CEO of Turning Point USA, they could be more transparent about what happened that day. People don't like the stuff that they've seen about Mikey McCoy. They don't like what they've seen about Rob McCoy. They don't like the history of Rob and Mikey McCoy and their involvement here. They don't like the video of Terrell. They don't believe what time text messages were sent or when the phone calls took place. You know, Rob McCoy is lying. In the areas that you can control the transparency, I think doing that would be beneficial to Turning Point USA, because I don't think Turning Point USA is going to survive if they continue down this path of, you know, Tyler Boyer late night tweeting at donors as he did over the weekend. I think he directed his fire at like John Mappin and Arena Mappin, called John Mappin a loser. I don't think that that's the correct messaging to come out of Turning Point.
And then she made an important point. In most serious events, especially when a spouse dies under unclear or shocking circumstances, the surviving spouse is often the first to demand transparency, truth, and accountability. But in this case, Erika did not do that. There was no call for further investigation, no pressure to clarify, no movement to challenge the narrative being told.
But they're doing the Super Bowl commentators with the headsets on, doing a media table. They're selling merch, registering voters. They got pyrotechnics. Is this WrestleMania or is this a funeral? Like, what are we doing here? And then, the day after the funeral, I'm getting 500 texts and emails. Erica Kirk here. I miss him. Every time I blink, every beat of my heart. Make sure to donate. $5, $15, $25. It's like, okay. Then they're doing a show. Did you see the show today? And so prescient. I said it last night. I said, I'm getting like a fake vibe. Something's off there. And people say, well, everybody grieves differently. Yeah, I don't know how much mileage we can get out of that one anymore. Something's not right there. Very bizarre, weird vibe there. And did you see the show? Erika hosted the Charlie Kirk show this afternoon, and she's she looks like she's over the moon. She's happy as a clam. And again, who am I to judge? Everybody grieves differently. She's a very devout Christian. Some people say maybe that's just strength, that's resolve. I don't know. It's one thing if your husband dies, period. It's another thing if your husband dies at age 31, unexpectedly. It's another thing if your 31-year-old husband unexpectedly dies because he gets publicly executed with blood gushing out in front of thousands of people screaming and running away. That's like something that's altogether different.
For Candace, that silence wasn't a sign of inner strength. It was a sign of concern. And when she spoke up, social media erupted in a furious debate. One half thought Candace had gone too far by publicly criticizing a grieving widow, that what she should have shown was sympathy. The other half believed Candace was simply voicing what many felt was unusual but too afraid to mention. Screenshots, reaction clips, and video comments flooded the internet, spreading at breakneck speed. The debate continued. Was Candace exposing a truth that others were afraid to touch? Or was she unintentionally attacking a woman at her most vulnerable moment in her life? Candace remained steadfast. She insisted that her words were not impulsive and certainly not intended to hurt. They stem from a hunch, a suspicion that something is not being said, and that Erika's behavior is not what one would expect from someone seeking the truth after losing a loved one. But what prompted Candace to speak out was more than just personal emotion. There was a trigger behind it, and it was a leaked group chat that turned the whole picture upside down. Before the leak, much of the public believed that those close to Charlie were still grieving privately, quietly, and respectfully. But when those screenshots appeared online, all those illusions were shattered. Candace says she had access to a private group chat between key individuals in Charlie's network. According to her, the screenshots referenced on her show are real and come from that conversation. She says she initially shared the information with a select few people in authority for review and verification purposes, not intending to make it public. But once the image left her hands, things spiraled out of control. It spread too quickly for anyone to stop, and things have never been the same since. The leak revealed text messages that hinted at disagreements, hidden details, and private concerns that didn't match up with her previously flawless public statements. For many, it was the first sign that behind the scenes, not everyone was speaking with one voice. As soon as the screenshots were made public, social media transformed into a giant investigation room. Thousands of people began parsing every word, examining every expression, interpreting the tone, and asking, why hasn't this been mentioned publicly? Candace's supporters argued that the leak bolstered her argument, that she wasn't calling Erika out for nothing, but responding to a conflict that needed to be clarified. Critics, on the other hand, accused Candace of inflaming things, making an already delicate situation even more difficult. No matter how you look at it, there's no denying that the leak changed the landscape. The public conversation shifted from, was Candace too harsh, to, why was this kept secret? And if the leak had already caused a stir, Joe Rogan's involvement made it all the more explosive. In a podcast, Rogan expressed his suspicions.
That, like, okay, you're saying something that's actually factually inaccurate,
right,
according to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird shit going on. He's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Yeah, we saw didn't they have video of him jump? Somebody had a cell phone video of him jumping.
There's
down,
a video
right?
of him jumping. So this guy, whoever it is, jumps off of the roof and lands, whether or not he's even the guy who shot him. Maybe he thought he was going to shoot him. Maybe he's a patsy. Maybe he did it.
I feel like he's a plant. Did you see the video? Did you see the person doing the investigating on his mom's Facebook?
No.
You haven't seen this? Have you seen that, Jamie? Some dude online.
His mom's got a weird Facebook. I
It's
spilled coffee.
very trippy. It doesn't make any sense. Like, the more they keep looking into it, the more they're like, this doesn't feel like a real... It feels super fabricated.
But here's the thing. Just like I was talking about when people are arguing on social media, it's all part of the plan. If you want things to be...
I wanted it so bad.
If you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of... If you're going to kill a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky that doesn't make any sense, and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it out in the woods. You do a bunch of like that.
You have an old man put his out and yell, I did it, I did it, I did it.
Yeah, you get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry, And you
boyfriend is a
talk to him on
furry?
Discord. I think he's a furry.
Is
I
that
don't want
a-
to disrespect.
I don't know if that's a
He's
real
definitely
thing. Is that?
His boyfriend's definitely a guy who became a girl.
And wears furry stuff.
I think they do furry sex. Or furry games. Excuse me. My apologies. I don't want to disrespect the furry sex
Shout out
or
to the
furry
furry
game
community. Yeah.
Bro, shout out to the furries because me and Duncan.
Either way, the topic quickly went viral and became the subject of online jokes. But when Joe Rogan addressed the situation on his podcast, everything changed. The story went from being a minor topic in political forums to officially entering the mainstream of popular culture. Joe didn't make accusations, nor did he claim to know the whole truth. He did what he was famous for, asking questions that millions of people have thought about, but no one dared to say publicly. On air, Joe addressed the Charlie incident, pointing out that some of the details that had been made public seemed to be inconsistent. He said he found it confusing that important information was being released in fragments, lacking the transparency that was required. Joe's tone wasn't aggressive. It was curious, analytical, sometimes just plain skeptical, but that alone was enough to make the impact. And the story officially emerged from the silence and became the center of everyone's conversation. Because Joe Rogan's audience is huge, when he raises an eyebrow or asks a question, the internet explodes. Clips from his podcast go viral on TikTok, Instagram, and X. Within minutes, viewers are adding captions, adding reactions, building their own theories, and creating a whole new wave of analysis. One prominent comment read, "If someone as influential and knowledgeable as Joe Rogan is asking questions, it's clear this can't be a conspiracy theory anymore." And sure enough, overnight, the narrative has changed. What was once an internal debate among political commentators has now spread to everywhere, to barbershops, gyms, college campuses, and online chat groups. Some praise Joe for making the conversation more transparent and worth discussing. Others say he's unintentionally fanning an already emotional fire. But one thing was clear: after Joe Rogan stepped in, silence was no longer an option for anyone involved. But the moment that really set off a wave of suspicion was when the topic of the timeline was brought up. And that's when things got messy. Observers, fans, and online analysts began comparing every detail, from public statements to articles to the timestamps of the calls, and they found something that couldn't be ignored. According to Erica's account, she received a call telling her that Charlie was in trouble. But when people compared that account to the timeline of the incident recorded in the official report, it appeared that the call came before the time it was published. That detail raised a whole new set of questions, and made people start to suspect that, perhaps, the whole story wasn't being told. To be fair, there were plausible explanations for the discrepancy: time zone confusion, emotionally distorted memories, or reporting errors. But when the detail hit social media, all subtlety was lost. The story was immediately thrust into the spotlight. People online began to see the time discrepancy as a warning sign that needed clarification. Screenshots went viral, and videos of parallel timelines appeared with sensational captions like, "Someone explain this." For many, the issue wasn't the time difference, it was the silence surrounding it. If the discrepancy were simply a time zone or misunderstanding, critics would have assumed that an early explanation would have quelled the rumors. Instead, the silence only served to heighten public skepticism, especially among those already skeptical of the official story. Erica's supporters, meanwhile, counter that grief can cloud memory, and that it's unfair to expect absolute accuracy from someone in a state of shock. Others, on the other hand, argue that, given the public and sensitive nature of the situation, clarity is all the more important, especially as small details fuel speculation. Regardless of which side you're on, it's clear the timeline question has opened a new layer of doubt, and once it's opened, it's hard to close. And just as the debate is reaching its climax, another piece of the puzzle has emerged: rooftop video. The clip, released by authorities, is said to show suspect Tyler Robinson on the roof of a building shortly after the incident. The original intention was to clear up public misunderstandings, but the result has been quite the opposite. The short, blurry, and information-filled clip took social media by storm. Viewers dissected each frame, lingering on every tiny movement, trying to find clues. And the more they watched, the more they felt like the clip, instead of answering, only raised more unanswered questions. Candace Owens became one of the most vocal critics of the clip, pointing out that Tyler had been known to have a foot problem that affected his mobility, while the character in the video moved with a speed and agility that didn't seem to match that description. Side-by-side comparisons immediately arose. users juxtaposed old videos of Tyler walking with the character on the roof. Slow-motion videos, gait analysis, posture, and even body proportions were all over the place. For many, the clip didn't prove anything. On the contrary, it only made the story more vague and confusing. Candace's detractors argued that she was exaggerating details that could be explained away, like poor image quality, off-angle shots, reactions under stress, or simply misidentification. They accused her of turning a tragic event into a viral conspiracy theory without any clear evidence. But Candace's supporters argued that if the video was truly meant to shed light on the case, it should have been released in full, with context, audio, and multiple camera angles, rather than just a short edited snippet. The issue, they said, wasn't just whether the person in the clip was Tyler, but how it was presented. Many felt the video felt staged, like the public was being led to a certain conclusion rather than being given the full picture to judge for themselves. And as the audience's trust began to waver, doubts grew. But then, the most moving moment, and the most divisive moment, came not from the clip, the leak, or the debate over timing. It came from Erica Kirk's public tribute to Charlie. The video went viral, garnering millions of views and a mixed reaction. In her speech, Erika spoke about forgiveness and compassion, showing empathy for the alleged perpetrator in a way that surprised many, especially since it all happened so soon after such a devastating loss. She maintained a remarkably calm and composed demeanor throughout the memorial. For some, it was a picture of faith, strength of spirit, and extraordinary resilience. They praised Erika for choosing forgiveness over anger, seeing her as a symbol of emotional maturity and kindness in the midst of a public storm. Not everyone was comfortable with the speech, however. Some in the audience said they expected to see more obvious pain, emotion, a choked voice, or at least a hint of brokenness. Instead, they saw Erika's almost absolute calm. For many, the emotions seemed more prepared than genuine. What added to the skepticism was when Erika referred to Michael McCoy, Turning Point USA's chief of staff, by her nickname, Mikey, during her speech honoring her recently departed husband. To some, it was an innocent slip of the tongue, a gesture of intimacy in an emotional moment. But to others, the moment felt strangely intimate and somewhat out of place. They asked, why was someone close to Charlie being referred to in such a warm and gentle tone at a ceremony meant to honor her late husband? The detail quickly went viral on social media. Many called it inappropriate. Erika's supporters argued that the public was overanalyzing an emotional moment. Critics said her tone conveyed a level of intimacy that was inappropriate for the occasion. Whether viewed as genuine grace or strategic composure, Erika's speech was a turning point. It shifted the conversation away from a question of truth and onto another dimension, perception. And in the world of media, perception is power. While Erika's tribute sparked a wave of strong emotions, the debate intensified as the public began to pay attention to what happened next, particularly the power shift within Turning Point USA after Charlie's passing. On social media, a question quickly emerged and was asked again and again. Who benefited from the silence, and who stepped into the light when the media storm subsided? Almost immediately, viewers noticed that Erica Kirk was taking on an increasingly prominent and influential role within the organization. She began to represent Charlie's legacy, posting well-crafted statements, appearing on television programs, and being presented as a symbol of grief, healing, and continuity. To many, this made perfect sense. She was Charlie's life partner, and her following in his footsteps was seen as an act of honor. But there were also those who felt that everything had moved too quickly, almost as if a new narrative had been prepared before the public had even fully grasped what had happened. Then there was Michael Mikey McCoy, who Erika had mentioned in her tribute. His name began to crop up in discussions, as people realized he had suddenly become central to every communication and organizational decision. Some believed that Mikey had taken on the role of gatekeeper, controlling information, feedback, and public messaging from TPUSA. Meanwhile, critics said the organization was moving too quickly, seemingly ignoring the need for greater scrutiny and transparency. To outside observers, the picture that emerged was one of a complex story of power, image, and public narrative, where silence was no longer just a pain, but perhaps a strategy. Supporters of Turning Point USA dismissed such speculation, arguing that the organization is simply doing what is necessary, maintaining stability and continuity during a leadership crisis. The swift action, they say, is not a sign of doubt, but a natural response to protect the hundreds of employees, donors, and projects it operates. Skeptics, however, see it differently. They see the level of efficiency and smooth coordination the organization has demonstrated less as an emergency response to a crisis than as a planned transition. From either perspective, whether professional strategy or political opportunity, the rapid change raises new questions. Is the current silence a defense of personal pain or a defense of control? And once that question is raised, it becomes almost impossible to ignore. Just when everyone thought they had seen it all, a new twist emerged and fanned the flames of curiosity. The internet began to spread rumors that there was a longer version of the rooftop video, in which a woman could be seen standing near the alleged suspect just before he left the scene. According to people who said they saw the video early, the clip was only available for a short time before disappearing from platforms. It was shared, reposted multiple times, and then abruptly removed without a trace. And then just like that, the mystery woman theory exploded across the internet. Users began to dig through saved files, old posts, and screen recordings, trying to prove the clip actually existed. Some swore they heard a female voice in the background. Others said they saw an object being exchanged. Small details, but enough to send the entire social network into a collective state of investigation. Critics say the whole missing footage thing is a social media concoction to fill a void. But for many, the fact that footage can appear and disappear makes the situation seem more controlled than transparent. Between the leaks, the questions, and the conflicting interpretations, one thing is clear: it's creating more confusion than answers. Erika's supporters believe she's taking a soft approach, protecting her family and avoiding inflaming tensions. Meanwhile, critics say the calm, silence, and speed of change within the organization are points that need to be clarified. Joe Rogan's involvement has fueled the debate, while Candace Owens has made sure it doesn't die down. The public isn't looking for drama these days. They want transparency. A unified explanation could put an end to all the doubt. But until that happens, speculation will continue to fill the void. And the question remains, is this just a misunderstood incident, or is something deeper hidden?